You know what I mean? Like if you close the door, do you just leave all the rubbish behind? Like, do you leave that mess behind, or is it still?
It's still there. So I know my workspace, I have to keep it clean. So I work from home. So that I keep, otherwise it impacts, you know, I kind of like, oh no, I can't do this. So that I keep quite neat and tidy, but the rest of the house is not quite like that. But I'm working on it. But no, it does. It's like, it drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I know. But you also need your husband's involvement. That's the thing, right?
Yeah, and he's always like, no, but every weekend I try to do it, and then you want me to blend gas because we're going diving. So what do you want me to do? So I'm like, oh, okay.
Blend gas. Okay, well, now that you say that, that's why we're here. So, you know, I don't do these major intros. You know, everyone knows the show's Raw Not Researched. And, you know, I basically know you through Pete and Karina. They're good friends of mine. Yeah, you know, Pete was telling me about this dive that he was going to go on. And when they came for dinner, I asked, and he started telling me about his side of the story. And I was like, oh my God, I need to meet Karen, you know? So yeah, let's just go right in there. Tell us who you are. And, you know, when I say diving, tell everyone exactly what kind of diving you do.
So I think now I'm obviously a technical cave diver, deep technical cave diving. So really what attracts me to diving is the deep part, maybe not so much the cave part. That's grown on me. But always the deep part. I think when I started diving, I always had this affiliation to diving deep. And I knew already, sort of, as an entry-level diver, when Werner van Skyke broke the women's world record in about 2004, that I was going to do this. And I told her, actually, at the time, that I'm going to break your record. But
Seriously?
I think, I mean, I was an entry-level diver. People thought I was mad. You know,
I love that. That's so cool.
But it's taken like 16 years to get to that point.
Yeah. So hold on a sec. Okay, so now then let's back up. So now, yeah, so it's the deep diving. I mean, you saying that, I'm literally like thinking, what on earth possesses anybody to want to go that deep in the water?
I don't know what it is. It's just, I can't explain it. Everyone thinks that I'm mad. Like, why do you want to do it? But it's just, I don't know, what gets me out of bed in the morning. You know, that challenge almost, I guess. The challenge of pulling that together, of planning the dive, of making a trip like that happen is what excites me.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so that's, now we know what, let's now back up. So we're in South Africa now. Most people know that. Yeah, give us your background. Where you from? You born in Joburg or?
So I was born in Zambia.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I left there when I was very young, like 4. So I don't really remember it. Then we moved to Natal. Where we stayed there for 4 years, and then when I was 8, we moved to Botswana.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
what does your dad do? He's an engineer.
He's an electrician actually, but he worked on the mine.
Yes.
In Botswana. So I pretty much grew up in Botswana, and then went to high school here in Johannesburg.
Oh, okay.
I went to boarding school,
Yeah.
And then pretty much stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you stayed, but your folks came back here. No, they stayed there. You came to boarding school. And then and so then where were you at school?
St Andrews.
Okay.
In Bedfordview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brothers, sisters?
Nope, none. Only child.
Oh my God, you must be putting your parents on the edge of their seats. Are they still alive?
They are. And I didn't tell them about the diving that I was doing.
This last one now.
There was this one, and there was the 200-meter one before that. My mom saw the 200-meter one on social media. She saw it on Facebook, and I got a call, and she was just like, is there something wrong with you?
Seriously?
Yeah. She was not happy. And she asked me, she's like, please promise me you're not going to do this again. So I was like, but sort of like, yeah, I don't know. And then when I actually broke the record, obviously my husband wanted to post it. Everyone was asking what happened, you know, am I okay? So he's like, we have to tell people and post this. So I said, but my parents are going to see this, so I need to tell them first.
Yes.
So I actually phoned my dad to say, and he was a bit of a shock, because mid of the week I'm now phoning him, and he's like, what's going on? What's wrong? And I said, no, I just need to tell you something. I went diving today. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I did a really deep dive today. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, and I broke a world record. There was a bit of silence, and then he was like, wow, okay, that's amazing.
Jeez.
And I was like, I'm scared to tell mom. And he's like, don't worry, I'll deal with it.
Yeah. So you were then like cave diving just casually in 2004, up to 2004?
So I only started cave diving in 2007. That's when I got my cave diving qualification.
Yeah.
And I didn't really cave dive much after that. I didn't enjoy it, to be quite honest, the cave diving bit. It's only when Peter came back from his travels that he needed a cave diving buddy. So I started diving a little bit more in the caves.
Okay.
But up to that point, it was mostly doing sea dives and building depth in the ocean. And then when I realized that if I was going to do this, it had to be in a cave. And then we got much more serious about the cave diving side.
So you say if you were going to do this, it needed to be a cave, and that's because can you not go that depth in the sea? I mean,
you can, but not in South Africa. Just our coastline isn't really conducive to that because we have strong currents.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't. We got to about 140 meters in the ocean, and then after that we realized to go much deeper was just going to be like really risky and challenging. So it wasn't going to work.
So this was now. What was the depth now? 200.
236.
236, and that now you broke the world record.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my God. And your face is glowing, but I think your face does just glow because you're doing what you love, like, right? You have that presence about you.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the, I don't know, as I said, I can't explain it, but it's a passion. And, I guess when you speak to anybody that is really passionate about something, that's what they do. They can't explain why they do it. It's just something that they do.
Yeah. So that's 236. She went at 200.
221.
221.
Yeah.
And just like, I mean, tell us the steps to, you were diving in the sea. You saw her. Are you guys all in the same circle, or how does it work? Like,
No. So, well, we used to be. So I used to be a member of Wits Underwater Club while I was studying at Wits, but that was like many years ago. And that's where I got the opportunity to meet Werner and Nuno, the previous men's world record holders. So they were instructors at the Wits Underwater Club at the time. But I was, as I said, very junior diver at that point.
That's amazing. And this beats also the men's. So what's the men's record?
333, I think.
So that's almost like 100 more.
meters deeper, yeah. And
is that because the men's lungs are bigger?
I don't know. Maybe they just not as I was going to say they not as clever. I guess they push the limits much more. I suppose, I don't know. But yeah, possibly. But having said that, I think women are better suited to diving. They have a much better physiology for diving. But maybe
explain that.
Well, they in terms of their gas consumption, they have a little bit less muscle. So you obviously you breathe. I won't say breathe less, but you use less gas. So in that respect, you're probably better suited to diving. I mean, you don't need huge muscle mass to go diving.
And so you were connected through Wits, you're saying?
Yeah.
You saw her doing that. Were you following it? Is it something you started following already?
Yeah. So I mean, I wasn't at the actual dive that she did, but obviously Thursday nights were club nights, and you would hear the stories of the trips that they did and the various sort of lead up bits, and then obviously when she broke the record, it was a huge party at Wits. So I decided then that I think I can do this, but I must say a lot of people were like, really? And I remember Nuno, actually at the time, he was the men's world record holder, and he was giving a presentation at one of these outdoor shows, and we had a couple of beers afterwards in the beer tent, and I said to him, I'm going to break Werner's record. And he said to me, just because you can drive a car doesn't make you a Formula One driver. So I was like, okay, you'll see.
But sorry, who's Werner now?
So Werner's the previous women's world record holder.
She was the previous, and this one was...
And Nuno's the previous men's.
So Werner, because their names are quite similar.
Yeah.
Werner, Nuno.
Werner and Nuno.
Werner and Nuno. Yeah. It's like both also random names for me. So, okay, so tell us how you then started diving in the first place.
I was actually on holiday with my parents in the Eastern Cape, and just by chance they bought me a diving course for my 19th birthday.
Yeah.
They asked you, what do you want for your birthday? I was like, I don't know. So they were like, well, we're here on holiday. How about a diving course?
Yeah.
And it just kind of stuck. So I did that course, and then I was studying at Wits, so I joined the Wits Underwater Club.
Okay.
And then progressed through the various courses there.
So were you at that time when you started that course, and then you joined the WITS club? Because so basically you did the holiday course, you liked it, so you thought, actually, I quite like this, I'm going to go on the holiday. I'm going to join the WITS club.
Yeah.
But then for you, was it just about going through getting all your courses, getting those certificates so that you could have freedom in the sea?
Yeah, and it was more of, there was a big social aspect to it, to diving with the WITS Underwater Club. There was the trips away and the club night. So it was quite a big social aspect. And then obviously little bit by little bit doing the next course, and then someone would run another course and you'd hop onto that course.
Yeah. So then when did the competitive drive start?
I don't know. I think sort of a few years later after I joined WITS. And I think part of it was, you got the Nunos and the Verners and the very senior sort of technical divers and instructors. And part of it was like, well, why can't I be in that circle?
But at what point did that penny drop for you to think, why can't I be in that circle?
It was probably still early, probably 2003, 2004. So probably at the time that Werner was sort of attempting the record. Because obviously there was an invite only to be on those trips, to get the nod to go on those expeditions and those trips. And of course I was nowhere near cracking the nod to be on any of those trips. So I was like, well, I also want to be at that level where people take me seriously and I'm considered, to go on these kind of diving trips and expeditions and things.
So it kind of started first with, because and that's human nature, right? If someone's going to the Maldives, we all want to go to the Maldives. So it's kind of like they were going on these cool trips. It was about, I also want to go to these cool trips and see these amazing creatures.
Yeah.
And then it became like, well, hold on, you can't unless you're good enough.
Yeah.
And then it became like, okay, well, I better be good enough so I can go on those trips.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And then I think it became a lot more than that. So obviously, Werner wasn't at the WITS Underwater Club that much. He'd come now and again, and a lot of those old instructors eventually moved on. And I eventually left in 2013 and started our own dive school. So but the seed was already there, and it was like, well, I've already moved to try and achieve this. I'm not going to let that go now. And I think it became more about a personal journey then, about developing myself and my knowledge to get to the point where I think, I can do this.
And this for you was, I can do this. Like, what was that exactly?
I don't know. It's, I guess diving deep, I suppose, like doing the deep diving courses and getting to that point.
And being good at it.
Yeah.
So, when she said, when you told her that, it was the guy that said to you, you can't be a driver, but what did she say to you?
She actually told me, but in an almost sarcastic way. She said to me, that's fine, you can try, I'll even help you.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah.
So, and towards the end, she indirectly did a lot of equipment that she had, that she used for all of her records and those trips she sold to us.
Okay.
Because she immigrated to New Zealand. So she sold all of that to us at a very reasonable price. So indirectly she did assist.
Yeah. So tell us, like Pete was telling me his process. Just go through this process for us, because I found that absolutely phenomenal. Like, the way you guys do this. How long it takes, and just show that day for us,
Sure. Well, most of that day I was under the water, but it's really nerve-wracking, I must say. So obviously leading up to that, there is plans and plans and plans and logistics, and I think the biggest one was the decompression plan.
Yeah.
Because this is all theory. No one really does this kind of diving a lot to say, this is going to work. These gases are going to work. So it's kind of putting it there and thinking, hopefully this is going to work. So I know Peter and I had a lot of backwards and forwards of discussing, do you think this is going to work? Do you think it's not? Let's change this. So there was a lot of that. And then obviously logistics, because the site that we did it at is very remote.
Yeah, where was it?
At Bosmansgat, in the Northern Cape. So it's on a game farm.
Okay.
But there's no diving operations there.
So what does it look like? Like for the listener, because obviously this is predominantly a podcast. So like paint in their mind's eye what they can expect if they drive up to this place.
It's bush. You in the middle of the bush.
Yeah.
You actually don't even know that there's a hole there.
Really?
Because so there's a kind of a parking area, and you kind of need to know where you're going, otherwise you won't find it. And then you hike probably 15 or 20 minutes sort of down in, and then eventually you see the water. But it's not like a huge expanse of water. It's a small sort of pond almost.
How many meters would you say? By how many meters in a way?
Maybe
if you can say that. 10
by 5 maybe. So 5 sort of across, maybe 10 that way.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge hole, and you wouldn't even think there was a cave down there.
Who discovered the cave?
I think it was Theo van Eden, if I'm not mistaken. He's a police diver. It was him or somewhere around there. I don't know, they were at the time where cave diving, you know, every single hole of water, the guys would jump in and have a look, and they just went and had a look here, and they found there's sort of a crack in the rock, crazy. And it goes somewhere, and eventually they did more exploration and realized there's a huge cave under there.
So how does it travel? Like, how does this cave look?
It's got a very narrow opening.
Yeah.
So that we sort of refer to as a chimney. So you can fit maybe one diver down there.
Oh my gosh, Karen.
It's not super tight, but
so
it's quite
scary.
tight. And then it slowly starts to open up until about 70 or 80 meters. The sides just fall away. It's about 300 meters across.
Seriously?
In one direction, 100 meters in the other direction.
So it's like someone's tapping into a borehole in a way.
Yeah.
Like, that's maybe what it's like, right? You guys just found an opening to the Earth's surface.
Yeah. And I must say the diving is quite daunting when the sides fall away, because you've just got that line. And if you lose that line, you might not find this tiny little exit above you.
So who puts the line in?
We do. We put our own line in, make sure it's securely fastened to the surface.
Okay, so you make it... Jeez, that is so scary. Okay, so it's securely fastened to the surface, and then is there a weight on the bottom?
Yeah.
And then does it go all the way down to the bottom?
Yes. Well, I haven't been to the bottom to check, but
no,
yes.
But do you feel like, can you feel that it's dump? It's like, obviously you don't hear it, but I mean, do you feel like...
Yeah, so you feel the tension on the line. So I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure. Our line was a little bit... So the record line, I think, went all the way to the... Actually, no, the record line I had 10 meters from the bottom. I measured it to make it 10 meters off the bottom. And then we had a line where we put in at the beginning, you know, as a guideline to lay stages. And I don't know if that hit the bottom. I think it might not have.
Oh, okay. Because you actually, it goes so deep then.
Yeah, so the bottom's about 200. At the shallowest point's about 260 meters.
Mm-hmm.
The deepest point about 283 or 284.
Wow. That's like, we used to run the 100 meter, right? Like, that's how I always measure the meters, is because of running the 100 meter. So you think like, that's 200 and what did you say?
The deepest point, 283, 84, yeah.
So, okay, and then it does this massive expansion. But do you like go through little tunnels to get to this expansion? Or?
No, so it's just the chimney at the top, which is pretty much straight down. And then it opens up.
Yeah.
So there isn't really tunnels and things.
Okay.
Not in that cave. It's pretty down and up. Which makes it a perfect place to do something like a record, because you don't have to now swim through maze of tunnels to get any depth.
Oh, I see. Okay, so and I know this little bit because Pete was at dinner, and then at a certain point I actually said, no, wait, hold on, stop, because then I thought I need to interview you. But I mean, it's seriously technical. Like, you can't just shoot down and shoot back up. Just give us a feel, and our listeners a feel of...
So it's really easy to go down. Anybody can go down. It's coming back up. That's the problem. So going down is quick.
It's like life, right? It's easy to go down. It's hard to get back up.
So on that particular dive, it took me 14 minutes or just over 14 minutes to get to 236 meters, but 7 hours to come back up.
That is crazy, hey?
Yeah. So obviously there's decompression illness. So it's like, and for those that don't maybe understand, if you take a Coke bottle and you shake it and then you open it quickly, those bubbles is what happens to your blood if you come up too quickly.
Oh, really?
So you need to, like, you would have to open the Coke bottle slowly. You then need to ascend really slowly to let that gas escape.
So what is going through Karen's head? Like, okay, what's going through your head as you're going down, and what's going through your head as you come taking 7 hours to come back up?
So going down, you focused only on that dive. I must say it's one of the, people ask me why you like diving, and specifically deep diving, and it's because you're completely in the present. You're thinking about absolutely nothing else. You know, you're thinking on that dive and what you need to do, and there's always the next bit you need to do. So now I get to 30 meters, I know I've got to switch gases and do this. Then I've got to get to 100 meters. So you're always just thinking about that. On the way up, it's a little bit different. Obviously, the deeper part, again, you're just thinking about coming out alive and getting out. But
you mean when you're still down at the bottom area?
Yeah, so you focus on what you need to do. But as you get shallower and the stops are longer, then your mind starts to wander.
Because how long are the stops?
Well, they start at, the longest one was at 3 meters, which was 2 hours.
So you hold onto the rope and you hang around there for 2 hours in the water.
Yeah.
Actually, and Pete even said, I think he had a device or something to keep him company.
He was clever. I think he took, I don't know if it was a phone or a Kindle that he put in a one of those waterproof bags, and he was reading. I wasn't as clever as he was. I just had 2 hours of like, okay.
That is bizarre. You're holding onto the rope.
So at 3 meters, you're out of the cave. So that was fine. Because the cave entrance starts at about 6.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But 6 meters, and I mean, the other stops are not quite as long. You've got maybe...
Just hold on, say that again. You say 3 meters, you're out of the cave, coming back up.
Yeah.
But the cave, isn't that more now the narrow section?
No, so the water level had risen quite a lot from when we were there previously. So the sort of little pond, the water was like 5 meters higher than it was previously. So 3 meters was completely out of the cave now.
You mean previously being from when you started the dive to...
So no, sorry. When we'd been there previously.
Yeah.
To do the build-up and logistics and stuff. 3 meters was just in the cave. Now it was completely out of the cave. So by 6 meters, you were out of the cave.
Yeah.
You were in that sort of... Well, 6 meters just at the lip. And then 3 meters, you're in that kind of duck pond area.
Okay.
Which was better. Because you had some
You
light.
could see the light.
Yes.
But I mean, so do you clip yourself?
Mm-mm.
You just hold on to the rope?
Yeah. I didn't want to clip myself. I know the previous build-up dive, so in last year, I'd done 200 meters, obviously, in preparation for this. And they wanted me to clip myself to the line on the way up, but I decided that's not a good idea. And they did that because if I pass out or something, then they can get to me. But for me, the risk of getting tangled on stuff, being clipped to a line, and was just... No, I think it was even more dangerous. So.
Do you think so?
Because, I don't know, if that clip or that line had now got tangled around stuff on the way up, then I would have really struggled.
Oh, I see. Where if it got tangled, like if it had got caught on something at the bottom. Yeah, because no one's going to go down there. No one can, right? Obviously, you've got Pete, but he can't now because he's already... So
he stopped at 200 meters.
Yeah.
And that was as deep as he could go.
Yeah. So, and that was the other thing he said, is that there were other divers then that came and swapped. Explain that.
Yeah, so obviously I needed support through the dive in case something happened. So the deep portion I was completely on my own. And then I met Peter at 200 meters. And realistically, I mean, there's not too much Peter could have done if there was something seriously wrong, but except maybe give me extra gas.
Yeah.
But it was really psychological support to have someone there with you. And then there was 2 divers that got me at 110 meters. Well, both myself and Peter, and they were there to, obviously I was switching gases, so that comes with risk.
Yeah.
So they were there just to monitor that all went fine, and if there was an issue, then they were there to help.
Yeah. And of course they didn't go as far as both of you, so they didn't have that Coke bottle issue
they still did, but less. Yeah.
Okay.
So we had 110 meters, and then 60 meters was the next level of support. And that's even better because they can get to the surface even quicker. And then 30 meters, and then 18 meters.
Yeah, okay. Wow. So do you not get anxious?
Before the dives, I do. I do, and Peter and I actually also discussed this, that we have these crazy dreams, leading up to these deep dives, like where things go wrong, and you wake up and you're in like such a panic, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just me, and then he was like, no, he also gets it.
Really?
So I was like, okay, it must be. I think you just run that dive over and over and over through your head, and you can imagine everything that could possibly go wrong, you know, and then you have to start thinking about, okay, but if this goes wrong, how do I deal with it?
And when you were saying earlier, like the planning, and you were analyzing and sussing out, will this work, won't this work, you guys obviously have been, you fully mastered divers. So this is all about, like, is this you guys creating your own dive based on the science and the maths that you've learned? Pretty much.
But also a lot of the science is theory. There's no like empirical evidence to support these really deep dives, because there's a lot of more people doing them, but as I said, it's theory. So you kind of got to take all the theories that are out there and apply them and hope that they actually work.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's the challenge, right? That's part of breaking the record.
Yeah. No, absolutely. As there were unfortunately 2 women that have tried prior to myself breaking this record, and they unfortunately didn't make it back from those dives.
Really?
Yeah.
South African?
No. One was a Bulgarian lady,
and
the other lady, I'm not sure what nationality she was, but I know she tried in Egypt in Dahab.
Really?
Yeah.
So I mean, you obviously you talk already about having that circle at Wits, right? Like, you've got your little community. I can imagine even on social media you've got your little communities, you know. I mean, do you ask? I would imagine maybe you don't, because you're so present in your own passion of this that you're not reaching out to someone else to understand their passion in a way, right? Because for you it's just your own truth. But for me, I'm wondering, like, is there a connection between all of you guys that have this fascination for going deep?
I don't know, possibly. And I mean, a lot of our groups, so through this journey, there's been other guys in our team that have also realized their love for deep diving and have, you know, now progressed deeper and deeper and have set themselves goals. You know, at first when they started, they were like, I'm happy to dive to 60 meters. And then they started and they were like, oh, maybe I want to get to 100 meters. So now they've got to the 100 meter mark and they're like, well, maybe 150 meters looks okay. So I don't know, it kind of grows on you, I suppose.
I know, but you say it, I suppose, but it's I still am so curious, you know, to know how it feeds your soul, because it's such a, not anyone does this.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just very rewarding, and it's probably like doing anything else. It's just this happens to be the thing that we do. You know, it's really rewarding going to that new depth. You know, when you go from 100 meters and then you get to 120 meters and you come out safely and everything went well. It's a really rewarding feeling that I made that happen. You know, I planned that and my sort of dive plan and everything got me there and got me back safely. Yeah.
And so, I mean, this is the world record.
Yeah.
That is like so freaking amazing.
It's taken a while to sink in. A lot of people still say to me, do you realize you hold a world record? And I'm like, it was just a dive. Yeah. You know, it was just another dive.
Did you do the Guinness thing? Did you go through the steps? So you are in now, you're going to be in Guinness.
I am. They've already approved it. Yeah.
Hey, high five.
So, yeah. I was thinking, should I just leave it? Because, you know, it was more a personal goal. And then I thought, well, if I'm going through all of this work, then might as well tickle the Guinness boxes as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I mean, I interviewed another woman who did 100 half marathons consecutively in 100 days.
Sure.
And she did it for mental health. So that there's like a nice connection also maybe in my curiosity, right? But I'll come on to that now. But she didn't go through the steps because her decision was so quick and so spontaneous. And Guinness are so particular, right? Which I get, they have to be particular. But so that's why I also know, you know, you have to really do that prep time. You have the prep time because it takes time to
tick all those boxes.
Yeah. But for example, like for her, it became what drove her. There was, you know, something that had happened in her life, and everyone listening now, you can go listen to Trish Eckstein's interview. But there was an incident that had happened to her, very traumatic. You know, where a guy literally just came onto their you know, their work campus and just shot people. So, you know, this embedded in her psyche, and so she's been driven a lot by that experience to then also break these records as well. So that's also, so then you can compare like, well, she's driven by doing it for a cause, whereas you're driven purely by this self, testing your limitations.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could say there was a good cause, but
there mustn't. No,
but and I've often thought, and I've said now, if I do it again, maybe I would try and sort of get some kind of sponsorship and fundraising behind it. But up until this point, it's really been an inner drive, a quest for sort of personal, a personal goal, really.
But I think that's beautiful. I mean, right? That's human nature also to test the limitations. I mean, that was my other thought, because you're going so deep. I watched that movie based, I don't know, it's where they went up in the hot air balloons and they wanted to break the record, but it was also, she wanted to break the record initially, but for him it was about the science of being able to analyze the weather forecasts and predict it. I don't know if you saw that. It became a little bit way out, became a bit, Hollywood. But is there something scientific that you can also maybe gather from you're in a unique human being that goes to that depth. So is there a science that can also maybe be gathered, or, like some kind of discoveries as well by doing that?
So I'm not so sure, I think, but I think it has changed the way we think about sort of gas planning for these deep dives. So if we look at the way the Verners and the Nunos did their dives, and they planned those dives, and the gases they've selected is very different to what we're doing now. And I think it's kind of changed that thinking a little bit. It's always the thinking was helium was bad, because we have to put helium in the mix, obviously, the deeper you go. So get off helium as quick as possible. Yeah. But now we're looking at it to say, well, helium's actually not really such a bad gas. So leave the helium in your mix for as long as possible. So so there's kind of sort of some theories that are developing from these deep dives around those kind of things. Yeah.
I mean, that is what someone like you, who has just this personal interest to test these limits, you're making science, you're creating it, right?
In a way, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, you are. I mean, right? It takes a real braveheart, a real pioneer, or to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people doing deep dives, but not so many women. And I don't know why. And it comes back to the question again, why do men go deeper? But if you look at the technical divers, there actually aren't even that many women. And I actually don't know the answer. I don't know why there isn't. There should be more.
Yeah. So now, are there then a lot of women divers in the sea in other parts of the world, like in Egypt and,
So there's a lot of women divers, recreational divers, that will go on holiday and go look at the pretty fish down to 20 meters. But sort of people that sort of push the limits more, very, as you kind of go through the courses, there's less and less women. And I actually don't know why.
Yeah. But then those women, for example, that didn't make it, they were trying to be, like, they are professionals, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you must have had to want to go into the research of why they didn't make it?
So both. Well, I'm not sure the first lady. The second lady, she got isobaric counter-diffusion. So it's from the gas switch. On her way up, she broke the record. She got to 233 meters. She'd broken the record, and at 40 meters. Yeah. So quite close to the surface. I mean, you've been to 233, you're now back at 40 meters.
Oh my gosh.
You think you've got this. And she got what's called isobaric counter-diffusion, and unfortunately she drowned.
Say that slowly?
Isobaric counter-diffusion.
Jeez.
Yeah. And she unfortunately drowned.
Oh my God, that's just so sad.
It is. Actually, her husband reached out to me after I broke the record and sent me a really heartwarming message, just to say that his wife had tried this and she wasn't here to see the success of the work that she'd put in. But I think he went to say, like, he knows that if she was here, she would want to congratulate me on this.
I want to cry.
I know, it was really
I want to cry. That's just so special. That's so special that he does that. I'm such a crybaby, actually. It's so special that he did that. Hey?
Yeah, I must say I was really...
I can see you also now getting a bit emotional with it, yeah. No, that's amazing. What a beautiful man to do that also, hey? Because this is your life, right?
Yeah.
So just tell our listeners, what do you do as a job? Because I believe you also, I mean, you have this, but you have a job.
Yeah, so I work for a pharmaceutical company.
Serious?
In clinical research.
Is that a coincidence or?
I don't know, it's also very technical and very scientific. So I suppose it kind of ties in well with technical diving and the sort of planning and the logistics and challenges that go with that. So, yeah.
What did you study then?
I studied pharmacology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does it help? Does this help you in your work, like what you do, or?
Not really. They're both logistically challenging, and obviously there's science kind of behind both of them, but very far removed from each other. But I guess having an understanding, because obviously in the work I'm in, you have a sort of medical understanding of things. So I think maybe that also helps sort of in the diving side with understanding the physiology of the diving.
And so tell me, what about, like, because you go those depths, I mean, is there also on a biological side, like any research that would be valuable, or because you go, not really, I mean, I guess they could put a bucket that far and get whatever they needed.
Yeah,
right?
So not really. And I mean, they can send an ROV down or
I know,
whatever,
it's so boring, right? They just put a camera down
I
there.
know.
Where is science and discovery these days? It's all in technology, hey?
Yeah.
Although it can't purely just be only, because it's, I mean, obviously this is more about then the way I'm feeling it and hearing it. It's more about testing human limitation.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, obviously men have been deeper, and even there's a lot of men that have been even deeper than 200. They might not be record holders, but have been deeper than 236 meters. But not many women, as I've said, and I'm not really sure the reason of that. But even some of those guys that are doing those dives fall short sometimes. Unfortunately, it's really hazardous, and there's quite a lot of fatalities that come with it.
And tell me, what about free diving? Does that interest you?
It does. I've done a little bit of it. Not my husband's really big into his free diving, so he kind of dragged me into that to do a free diving course and things with him. And I've done a free diving course, and I enjoy it to a point, because I can't hold my breath for as long as I'd like to go as deep as I want to. So so I don't, I do it here and there, but it's not really, there's no pull. Yeah.
So tell me, so the record, what were you now? Because now got you 236, 236, and that other woman tried at 233. Yeah. So and the one in Egypt, what was hers?
I'm actually not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It was also, it was deeper than 221.
Yeah. And then the men's is like 340 something.
333, I think.
So, and then what is the deepest free dive? Just to get a contrast.
I think that's 100 and something. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's probably 150, 160 meters, if not deeper than that. So it's not quite as deep as the deepest scuba dive, but it's pretty deep. To do that on a single breath of air. So, and then because it's the single breath of air, they can literally go up and down. Yeah, some of them do get decompression illness though, but obviously not as bad as you would if you were breathing gas at that depth. Yeah. Okay, so how old are you now? Can I ask? 38. So you're 38 now. I did ask you before the interview started, because we had like 5 minutes, but do you don't have kids, but do you want to have kids? Yes and no. It's a difficult question. Yes, because obviously it would be great to have a family, and it's something that my husband and I are talking about. But no, because is it going to change my lifestyle? The diving that I'm doing is a huge passion, and bringing kids into the mix of that is really going to turn that upside down. So kind of in the middle at the moment. It's an ongoing debate. Yeah. And in terms of that, like in terms of age, is there any way, does it work in the natural process of life, sort of in your favor, because of the natural process of life, that as you get older, your limitation would by default, do you know what I mean, get more, that you wouldn't be able to go as deep because of your age, and then therefore actually that would be like maybe push it to 41. I had a child at 40, like my last birth was at 40, and I had a natural birth in my house, just me and my husband and a midwife. Time. You know what I'm saying?
And then, you know, does that age thing have an impact with diving, or is it not really?
Not really.
a thing?
I mean, if we look at, okay, that's a guy, but if we look at Nuno, he was 54 when he broke the depth record. So I guess women it might be a bit different, but probably much more in your late 40s. So definitely well after the childbearing potential would you maybe see that impact in your diving.
Okay. So then this makes me wonder, where are you going with this? Like, what is your, you know, what's your next goal? You know.
So there's a couple of, nothing in concrete. So obviously I still have going deeper in the back of my mind. My target on that dive was 250 meters.
Was it?
Yeah, but I didn't get to 250.
But you were aware of the record?
Yes.
So you were...
So I knew that I'd had the record, and that's obviously why I decided to stop. And it's a good thing I did, because I may not have come back from that dive had I gone any deeper.
Really?
It was a really challenging dive, yeah. So
how do you feel that in your body?
It's, well, I actually got tangled in line down there.
Oh my gosh. So I'm seeing you and you kind of like putting your head down, like waving your hand saying, I know this seems ridiculous.
And it's not something we planned for. You're in the middle of like 30 meters from the bottom, 100 meters from the side of a cave. I did not think there was going to be random line there. And there was.
Some other person's random line.
So they'd obviously cut it and let it drop to the bottom.
How do you get tangled in that though?
I don't know. I know when I got to, so I decided to stop at 236 and I was hesitating. Do I go deeper? Do I stop here? And I thought, you know what, let me stop here. I can always come back and do this again. And as I tried to come back up, I couldn't. I couldn't come back up, and I started.
I like how you bring this in now. I'm thinking, why didn't you tell me this earlier?
So I must say it was like, then there's all these things that go through your head because you've got. So I'm inflating my sort of wings, which would start lifting me, and nothing was happening. And obviously the gas I'm breathing is what I'm also putting into those wings. So now I'm like, well, the more gas I put in there, the less I have to breathe.
Sorry, you lost me. Wings?
So wings they're called buoyancy compensators. So they look like that. They like this bag that you fill with air almost.
Okay.
That when you want to come up, you put gas into them. So they lift you. It's kind of like a lift bag.
Yeah.
Like a hot air balloon, I guess, but under the water sort of thing. But nothing was happening. And I kept filling them, nothing was happening.
But did you not have a torch to see what was going on?
You see, I didn't think. And I think that's part of maybe where the panic set in, is that I didn't think just to look what was going on, because I couldn't feel the line.
Did you have like a seal suit on, or were you barefoot?
Yeah, no. So I had these boots, these like gum boots and things, so I couldn't feel it. So I started pulling myself up the line, but at that depth, with the gas density, I got hypercapnia, so I couldn't breathe. And I started hyperventilating.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it was very scary. It was really, really scary. And then eventually when I got back up to 211
hold
meters.
on.
Yeah.
How did you get out of that situation?
I just kept pulling myself up the line. And then it kind of slowly started moving up. But I couldn't figure out why I wasn't going up. But
and you don't think that was also your brain?
So you don't think clearly down there.
Yeah.
Also, everything is it's just, I wouldn't say it's fuzzy, but you're not thinking as rationally as you would as if you were sitting here, your kind of flight or fight response kind of kicks in and you're just like, I got to get out of here, So I just kept slowly pulling myself up on that line. And then I also got tangled on the 226 meter tag. That was the depth tag, so I had to unclip that and throw that away. And I think Peter said he saw that. He saw, because he was waiting at 200, so he saw me struggling, but he couldn't really figure out what was going on.
Don't you keep a knife in your somewhere, Like...
I do, but I didn't again realize that there was line until I got to 211 meters and I felt it.
Was it still on your foot?
Yeah, then I looked and I saw, okay, there's now line tangled, which is obviously attached to something, a weight or something at the bottom. And when I threw that
and
off...
no, you're not connected in a walkie-talkie kind of underwater thing? Can you be, or...?
You can, but then you got a full face mask and it just adds complexity.
That sounds a bit like 1996.
Yeah.
I mean, surely in this day and age they have these tiny little earpieces,
Not that's going to go that deep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What about the submarine guys?
Yeah, but they're dry, I guess, and it's pressurized inside. It's not really exposed to that pressure.
And that's the thing, right? With these same guys that are going up, it's the fact that when they get to that altitude, they start going dilly. That's when that's often what, like, their bodies can handle more than what the brain can, right?
Yeah. I guess it's kind of that. I mean, you still think relatively clearly, but things just become really difficult to do. Simple things that you would do really easily on the surface, you just can't do them.
Yeah.
It just becomes really hard. But as I said, at 211 meters, then I saw the line and I figured out what was going on, and I managed to get that.
They must have given you a sense of relief, right?
Yeah, because I couldn't. It's just like this cave was claiming me, and I was like, I don't know what's going on.
That was like not an academic, but it was an intellectual. You could process that intellectually.
Yes. Yeah. So that once I got that line off, that was fine. But it was really frightening, I must say. It was almost a life and death moment. There was a point in that dive when I'm fighting against this thing that I didn't know that I thought, I'm not coming back from this dive.
Really?
Yeah. And you think you'd panic, but I was calm. I was just like, okay. Well.
What did go through your mind then?
I was just, firstly fighting stuff, and you're focused on trying to get this, trying to get up, and then at some point I just thought, because I was hyperventilating, and I knew my brain
literally like that, in the,
and my brain was telling me, if you don't slow your breathing, you're going to pass out,
and you're going to use more oxygen.
Yeah. So I was like telling myself, slow your breathing,
okay,
but didn't work, because obviously it's a chemical loop that your body's in now.
But so it was literally, actually it was the fact that you were still hyperventilating, but you were at least still climbing up slowly.
Yeah. So my mind at that point was actually quite calm. I'd kind of calmed myself, but my body was because of the density of the gas and all the other physiological things that are happening, was not quite responding as my mind was. And at one point I just thought, okay, well, this is it. This is it for me. And I was okay with it, I guess. And then, I don't know, a split second later,
but that's what I want to know. Were you just okay with it?
For us, it's kind of like you almost give up, and you're like, okay, well, this is it. I'm done. I knew this was going to be dangerous, and I guess I'm not going to make it back. And
did you cry?
No, it was just almost, these things happen in seconds. And then almost after that, it was like, I didn't come here to not make it back from this dive. So hold on, let's reevaluate the situation. Awesome. and get out of this, It just happens so quickly, though. Your mind goes through these. But
I love that, right? That's what it takes to be a good sports person. That's what it takes to achieve in life. Yeah. That's what it takes to just get through life, actually. Because life is not a frickin' bed of roses, right?
Yeah.
It's that exact thing. It's like, listen, I did not come here to, to not have a good time. In your case, to get out alive. But, that's life, isn't it?
It is.
Wow. That's amazing. I bet you didn't tell that to your parents.
No, I didn't. I did not.
So we're going to have to, I don't know how you're going to keep this from them.
They knew that it was challenging and that there was some line down there, but I didn't really kind of share really how serious the situation was.
So then when you did get out, what was the first thing you said?
I'm never doing this again. It was literally the first words. But this is now 7 hours later, and I must say, now you're sitting there thinking about, no one knows what happened.
No.
Peter also, he saw bits of it, but he didn't understand, what it, and you're thinking, I can't even tell anybody this, and now 7 hours later you think, oh my gosh, it happened so long ago. Is it even worth sharing this with anyone? But literally I popped my head out and I was like, never doing this again, guys. I almost died. And they were just like, what?
Yeah.
But maybe I will do it again, because now that dust is settled, I'm thinking, well, maybe it wasn't so bad.
Yeah. But you will do it again. Do you know what I mean? Because you, I'm just going to say, how's it, guys? This part can be edited out, so we don't have to make it awkward that you're just checking the cameras. You're welcome to also stay if you want, huh? So, what was Pete doing, by the way, as you got up? Was he waiting at the surface for you?
Well, when I got out of the water, he was, I don't know, I can't remember. There was a lot of people around and everyone was kind of waiting for me to surface. So I think he was just, everyone was kind of standing around, waiting for me. And as I popped my head out, there was clapping and cheering and show us the tag, because I had to keep the tag. And then they're like, okay.
Was there a tag from the bottom?
So that we had tags from 225 and 5 meter. Well,
every
it ended up
5
being up 226, but every 5 meter interval. So I took the 236 meter tag.
Yeah. So that's also why it has to be checked by Guinness. Is there someone there? Someone must be monitoring that no one's pulling the string up.
Yeah.
Not strings.
Yeah. So it's
rope,
like, it was quite a huge thing, actually, the Guinness requirement. So I couldn't afford to fly a Guinness representative out. That was like, I don't know, $8,000 or $8,500 to get a Guinness person officially there. But otherwise, there's steps in place. So I had to have independent witnesses. So I had 4 of them. And they then measured the line, watched the line going in. You know, they searched all the divers before they got in the water.
So who's this independent person?
So there was 4. So there was Frank Slabbert from CMAS ISA. It's a diving organization in South Africa. Kevin Dolphin, vice president of CMAS ISA. I had Theo van Eden, who is a retired police diver, and he was on all the other records that have been done, yeah. And then I had Dr. Lieutenant Colonel, he's got a long name, Rob Bedford, who's the chief flight surgeon at the Aviation Institute. So he was also an impartial witness.
And then they sign an affidavit before to say, we promise to be ethical.
Yeah, and they have to send a whole statement and everything to Guinness of what they witnessed, how they witnessed that it was done, and that they confirmed that they believe that this attempt really did happen.
Sure. So the first thing you said was, I'm never doing that again.
And I said I'm not going to dive that deep again. Maybe stick to 100, 120 meters. But as time has gone on, I'm thinking, well, maybe I did want to go to 250, so maybe I'll go back and try that.
And did you cry out of just relief, or?
No, I think that relief you already feel when you're at 3 meters and you're still fine, you know, you're tired and you're hungry, but you know, otherwise you're fine. I think that relief already is set in there. You know, it was just a waiting game of 2 hours before I can stick my head out the water.
Wow, Karen. Well done.
Thanks.
Sure. It's amazing. Seriously. But I want you to make, I don't want anything to happen to you now. So you got to make clever choices here.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. So I didn't rush into making that decision. I said, you know, sometimes I don't want to do it for the wrong reason. You know, this was something that drove me to break this record, and it's been a goal for a really long time. I don't want now sort of just to be the next thing just because, you know. So I said this year was when I say no deep diving, like no super deep diving, just to kind of reflect and think and really make sure if I want to go deeper that I'm sure that that's what I want. And so because now I've heard your story, and it sounds to me you're definitely going to try something again. Probably.
Yeah. And so I mean, then if you do look just as a sort of more bigger picture of the future, like how do you see your life then going forward?
I don't know. I'm at a bit of a crossroads, to be quite honest. There's on the one hand the nice sort of family picture and, you know, and that, and on the other hand there's sort of exploration. You know, we just did a trip to Mexico, which really sort of sparked my cave exploration side, and that's shallow diving, but it's logistically challenging in its own right. You know, it's like kilometer and kilometer of
horizontal
exactly.
caves.
So it's relatively shallow, but you're going kilometers and kilometers and kilometers into these caves, and we kind of started looking, and there's a lot of maybe up in Africa cave systems that no one's explored yet. So that will also be really exciting. So it's kind
and
of
I see your face light up. I mean, your eyes do sparkle when you talk about this.
So just looking at that's logistically challenging, and obviously there's cost implications to that. But really looking at maybe doing, you know, some expeditions like that.
And in terms of sponsorship, because you said about maybe then getting sponsorship, so this is all on your own bat, basically. Wow.
Yep, no one would sponsor us. We tried, really tried. But I guess people are risk averse. You know, they don't want to be, if it went wrong, they didn't want to be attached to that. So they'd rather have no publicity than poor publicity. So no, it was all funded out of my pocket, which was challenging, I must say. It really was.
Wow. Because I think that happened with Red Bull, didn't it? Red Bull was sponsoring something that ended up bad. Because they're always doing these. What did you try Red Bull?
I did. They offered me 3 cases of Red Bull, but that's it.
How funny that I'm asking you, right? Really?
Yeah. So no one was willing to. There was only one. So Coltree South Africa sponsored in terms of they brought a loan compressor. And Steve from Coltree South Africa came there to do
what
all
is
the
Coltree?
They manufacture compressors and cylinders and things like that. So they came with a compressor, a big compressor, and they just managed all the fills and stuff with it. So that was sponsorship. It really helped a lot. But other than that,
I mean, this is I love always suggesting things that come to my mind anyway. But a company you should try is maybe ABB. Do you know them? Engineering company. We can talk about that later. But they used to be a client of mine when I owned an engineering recruitment company. And then when I was in Holland, I did a film for them. And anyway, we can talk about that. Maybe it's just a penny to drop and try. But, those maybe engineering companies that are, it's super inspiring.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think if it's filmed, for example, if that can be filmed in a GoPro or whatever, and there are ways. Anyway, we can discuss that another time. I love discovering ideas and ways that things can work. But yeah, and so in terms of that complication, do you find the mother family thing, is that genuinely sort of looking at you in the face as like, a conflict?
It is. And I think it's more of a conflict because I know time is running out, so I think it would be less so if I was still in my early 30s and I was like, I can do all these things and then, but that biological clock is ticking now, and it's kind of like, well, you kind of need to make a decision at some point, you can't just go, yeah, it's going to happen, because at some point the time's going to run out and it won't happen anymore. So,
and even with that, like, you are who you are, and I think having a child as well, you are who you are. So these sorts of things, so many sports people, they've got to be themselves, and if you feel you want a child,
Yeah, and that's what my husband says. Our lifestyle doesn't need to change that drastically. And I said to him, it's easy for you to say. You're not the one that's pregnant for 9 months, and but he said, realistically, we can work around that.
And if anything, it could actually even give you more of an edge. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you could also look at it from that perspective, because when you do become a mom, hormonally, all these things, you become a different person, hands down.
I might not want to dive anymore.
No, but you might, and you might also you might just approach it a lot more cunningly. It can also work in your favor. So that's all I'm suggesting, that actually maybe it can even work more in your favor.
Yeah. I think one of the things, what I'm most worried about is that your perception of stuff changes. Obviously now you're responsible for somebody else. Am I still willingly going to put myself at risk knowing, that there's someone now that I'm responsible for? So I think that whole mindset changes. So kind of worried that if we do have kids, then that's the deep diving thing, kind of, you need to let it go.
I don't think so. And I think, and I think, God willing, if a child does come into your world, because that's a gift, because it doesn't come into everyone's world, then it's meant to.
Yeah.
But I really, wow, as a human, I'm so proud of you, because we're all in our human community, and to speak to someone who has that courage, to speak to you with this courage, it's amazing. And you have such a grace about it as well. Yeah. So proud to be able to share your story. And yeah, I think what I want to sort of close off on is just go back to that element where you were thinking, well, screw this. Okay, it's game over. And, what else can I do? I did my best. And then, that's life, as I said. What tips or just words of wisdom or anything that you can give from those moments where just you had a goal, you had a dream, you went for it, you prepared for it, but it didn't work out. To a point.
Yeah.
Because you changed your mindset. Like, what advice can you give to people just, in life, like how they can approach what you've experienced in such extreme situations, but to life?
I think it's really not to ever give up, always, no matter how hard things get, because sometimes they do, to always keep fighting, keep looking for that light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, because there's probably, even though it's maybe a bad patch right now, or things are really tough, things are going to change, it can only get better from there, especially if you really think that you're at the worst, it can only get better, so keep pushing through.
Yeah. And I mean, that's literally what you say to yourself.
Yeah. I mean, there's no harm in trying. If you at that point, like a sort of life and death situation, well, if I give up, there's that's sort of a death situation. There's no harm in trying then. There's no worse outcome than where I am now.
And tell me something, what I do want to know, like, that is extreme, but what about just in your everyday life? Do you approach that same, do you know what I mean? That same, what's the word? Not competitive mindset, but that not giving up mindset in your everyday life?
I think I do, as yes and no, but mostly I think so. I mean, that competitive nature also carries into sort of my work life. I am competitive. I want to do well. I want to kind of climb that corporate ladder, so to speak.
Do you?
Yes, I did. But I don't know. I'm rethinking that at the moment. There was a company restructure, and it didn't work out so favorably for me. So I'm thinking, well, is that all there is to life? You're working for somebody else, you're working for another company. There's a lot more to life, than climbing a corporate ladder, I suppose.
So what are your thoughts there then? I'm curious.
No, and I'm thinking to do that, you can work really hard, and you work long hours, and you work 18-hour days, and you work weekends. And I was there and I did that and I enjoyed it. But now that I'm kind of not in that situation anymore, I'm like, I've got a lot more personal time to pursue the things that matter even more, and when you're in that sort of corporate environment and things, you think that what matters, it's really important to you to be in that, but is it really? There's so much more to life, friends, family, experiences, adventures, and I'm kind of in the thinking, well, I've got a good job and I'm happy where I am, and I also now have time to spend with family, to spend with friends, to to experience those kind of things as well. So
and I based on now hearing your story, the possibility of having a family but still pursuing this dream, and the corporate ladder, I mean, you got to be actually on the extreme spectrum of borderline psycho, right? I mean, because that just sounds like you're just chasing something, whereas it makes sense what you're saying, and it's nice to hear that you're at peace with that in a way. I mean, I am curious to know, what's going to happen with Karen in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I don't even know that, to be quite honest. It's everything was kind of building up to doing this record dive, like everything. I kind of eat and sleep this dive, and then it ended, and it's kind of like I didn't have a plan for what happens after this, and I still don't at the moment. So kind of figuring out, I suppose, where exactly I want to be and where I want to go.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you were so easy and coming and sharing your story. And do you do this often?
No, I have had a few interviews, but I still get very nervous, though, I must say.
But I don't make you nervous.
Everyone, it's like I'm not like naturally an outspoken kind of person, a bit more of an introvert. Yeah. So all of these sort of interviews and things, I was like, oh no.
It's part of the game, isn't it? Though, at the end of the day, right? No, but amazing. Wow. I mean, obviously, I'm going to stay in close contact with Pete anyway, and he has sort of said to me he's keen to try something himself, as he told you, obviously.
He's got some plans up his sleeve, so we'll see.
I said to him the other day when we bumped into each other, I said, I'm just waiting for you, and then I'm going to get you in the chair and find out your story. Although I kind of know a bit about, I know him, you know, but what really drives him, you know, that these are stories you don't often get to, you know, have with a lot of people, you know, like you hear through your, you know, you hear your friends are divers and, or they do this or they do that. But it's always nice to find out like what really connects them to it, you know. Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.